and it is Aloha Friday, and this is The Art of Life. I'm your host, Willow Chang Alion. We broadcast live, let me say it again, every Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. right here in the heart of Honolulu. And I'm not sure if the word is on the street, but for all of our viewers and for our future guests, we're going to be moving on up to the 8th floor. We'll still be in Pioneer Plaza, so we've got some new digs, something spacious. I'm excited to see what that change will entail. And that's kind of rare for me, because I usually don't like change. Anyway, keeping with that theme of not liking change, I've got a repeat, but a live repeat of one of our guests from last year. We have Darren Canberra in the house. If I recall, we had you in March of 2014.
Yeah, I think it was March.
And here it is May. So welcome
Hello,
back.
everybody.
And for those who are uninitiated, Darren Canberra is many things. He is a facilitator of writing, he subs classes, he's a poet, he hosts many events, he's an activist, and he has a pretty phenomenal beard. Got to throw one superficial thing into the mix there. So welcome back, Darren.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, so tell us about what it is that you want to share. What's new and shaking in the land of D?
An exciting thing that I wanted to put out there is that we're bringing back the open mic to Anna O'Brien's. And
it used to be Anna Bananas,
used to
for
be
those
Anna
who
Bananas.
remember.
Right, but now it's an Irish bar, a wonderful Irish bar, and we brought back the open mic, and it's an opportunity for collaboration with artists. I am a big fan of poetry, performer of it, but I also like music, and I like to see the art scene kind of collaborate with each other and create together. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about the format, because I think people have an idea of what open mic is. I think they just think of it as a singular microphone with a spot and a whole lot of loneliness and hecklers. But it's hopefully not going to be that type of
not
setup.
At all.
Okay.
Not at all. It's an open stage, so I mean we have a drum setup and you know, guitars and stuff like that can be set up. And for the open mic, you know, people can come in and perform by themselves, or they can come and bring a duo, or they can find people there. There's a lot of musicians there that are just looking for people to play with, and a lot of great art happens just on the spot.
So I'm going to clarify again, because I think, again, people might have different ideas of open mic. I mean, clearly they think of maybe comedians, and then there's a whole different genre, which is slam poetry,
Right.
and those are based on points. But this is literally an open mic.
This is an open mic.
So you can, like, let your freak flag fly. If
Yes.
you want to read the phone book, you could maybe do that with somebody playing the drums. I mean, how crazy can we get here?
I mean, you do what you want to do on stage. You know, that's what open mics are there for. It's for people to improve on their stage performance. It's for people to see what works with audiences. It's to get your name out, you know, those kind of things. And so, you know, whatever you're proud of as far as your art, let it happen.
Is there a time limit?
I'm going to keep people to 15 minutes or 3 pieces.
That's very generous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty generous.
Yeah, I mean...
You know the nature, and this is always subjective, so we have to be clear about that, because everyone has things that they like, things they don't like, and I think the exciting thing about open mic is you might go in there thinking you won't like something, and then you go home and the takeaways, you find a whole bunch of stuff you do. But when there's something that's not floating your boat, wow, it just can't end fast enough. And then when there's something you really like, you just feel like it went by so quickly and you want them back again.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And well, that's the nice thing about this one is that, you know, if people are great and they're doing a great job and you want to see more of them,
Right.
they can hop back on with someone else. You know, they've already done their slot, but they can continue playing with another person if the other person's cool with it.
So there's the potentiality for open mic hogs.
Yeah. Well,
It could be a dangerous thing, you know.
I'm good at regulating it and making sure that people aren't hogging the stage and
Right.
respecting other artists' time, because I mean that's a thing too, is that, you know, the list gets filled up pretty quickly, and you know everyone wants a chance to get on the mic, so
that's
you got to
going to
respect
be
that.
first come, first serve.
Right.
So it behooves you to get there early. You can't just like saunter in and make an appearance because you may not have a time slot.
Yeah, there's no diva treatment.
Oh,
But I mean,
shucks.
another thing is, like, you know, if the act isn't that great at this open mic, there's 2 bars at Anna's, so you can hop downstairs for a little while, and you know.
Are you suggesting libations as a means to overcome something unbearable?
There's soda there too.
Okay. Okay.
Get some cranberry juice.
I thought you were gonna get like Showtime at the Apollo and have like the clown with the broom and or a gong show, but no, it's not that
Little
type
shepherd
of thing.
hook, pull them off.
Or scorecards. So it's a score-free environment.
Right, right.
I just want to state
this
that.
one's not scored.
I just think in this day and age, there are so many things that are scored and judged and competitive. It's kind of nice to have a realm where you can just do your thing and not have to sweat it where some person's going to be holding up a number and it's the walk of shame back to your bar stool.
Yeah, but I mean, you need a balance of them.
Yeah.
So, but this one, this one's non-judgmental, you know, and open mics tend to be like that, you know, and I think that that's the important part about the development of an artist is being able to go out to open mics and get feedback from people and things like that, you know. One of the greatest compliments I get starts off with, I'm not a big fan of poetry, but you know, those are the people that, you know, if you find yourself reaching them, it's an awesome feeling.
Definitely. So I'm curious, for hosting this open mic, is it kind of like people who sell things, for example, for those who are initiated in the antiques market, or if they like to go to flea markets, a lot of times those vendors started off as collectors,
right.
And then they just like amass so much stuff that they in turn become vendors. I'm assuming, but I shouldn't. Did you go to a lot of open mics, and then just by attending and performing in a lot of open mics, you decided the torch was like kind of passed to you? How did that come about?
That's exactly what happened. I mean, I still help out hosting another open mic at On King whenever I'm needed, and that's where I do my writing workshops.
Is there at Sundays?
Every other Sunday, so first and third Sundays. But the open mic is every week.
Right, right.
But my workshops are right before the open mic, and so a lot of times I'll stay for that open mic, and that's a great open mic too. I mean, it's really an open environment, you know, for anyone that wants to get on a stage. You don't have to be a literary artist. You can be a dancer, you can be a juggler, you can be, you know, whatever you want to be. Yeah.
How about like Senior Winslet? Could it be?
You can do that.
Just asking, just kind of feeling the boundaries there.
You know, that one's an art space. Like, that is a performance art studio, so it's really got that attitude, you know. And the open mic at Anna's is going to be, you know, it's a bar, you know, so it's going to be barroom, open mic, barroom music and stuff like that.
Which means, I'm sorry, 18-year-olds, not allowed.
Yeah,
not
can't come to Anna's.
Sorry. Yeah. Can they come as a service dog? Probably not. No. I'm curious about a couple of things. So every venue, no matter what you do as a performer, is different. I'm going to state the obvious here, folks. But what do you do? Let's say you go to a venue and you find that the room just has like no pulse. I mean, sometimes there are rooms where the energy is just kind of dead. There's not a lot of give, there's not a lot of play, there isn't a lot of feedback, it's just kind of flatlining. What do you do as a performer, either to try to change that dynamic or just cope with that dynamic?
The only thing you can really do is focus on someone that's paying attention to you. You know, in the crowd full of people.
Is that why you bring your mom?
Well, yeah. My mom does not come to the
I know.
poetry
I've
stuff.
never seen your mom.
I mean, she's a great woman. Love you. Hi, Mom. But yeah, it's just, you know, the bars and stuff like that. It's just not her scene. So she doesn't want to see me in there. But yeah, I focus on, you know, the people that are paying attention. You can't focus on the ones that aren't. You know, people that are having conversations in the back and stuff like that. They're not into you, and you know, you work on the ones that are watching, and eventually, like, that energy will expand. You know, the person next to them will see that they're paying attention. They're going to start paying attention, and you can actually see it if you're doing your job right. You know, people shushing other people, and let the crowd get the crowd to pay you.
So a self-shushing crowd. Everyone needs one. I'm curious if there's someone who's like super dynamic. I think we're both in agreement. We're going to use a local luminary, Bridget Gray. We're giving a shout out to you, trying to get you on the show. And many people actually know her through YouTube, and a lot of people borrow, that's called plagiarism, her work. So Bridget Gray is a rock star. If you have a luminary like Bridget Gray on, what would you tell someone who maybe feels intimidated by the amazing performance prowess that someone that Bridget has? I mean, it could very well be that anyone that goes on after like a super dynamo, it's kind of what they say, a hard act to follow. What would you recommend for them?
ride that energy, like because you know Bridget is a dynamic, wonderful performer. Just saw her last night. She had a show. She had her own slam going on that she's starting on First Thursdays in Chinatown as well. And yeah, you just gotta follow that energy. It's like you know, ride that wake, because you know you can't compare yourself to someone else. You know, but you can take that energy and you know, compliment the person before you. Be like, that was awesome. I'm proud to be on the same stage as her. Yeah, you know, and Tui's another one. You know, Tui's a dynamic person that's very hard to follow with the energy and the topics that he brings up. So you know, you don't have to match that energy.
Right.
You just have to go with it.
That's very good. To paraphrase it in a poetic way, a kumquat is not like a tangerine, nor should they be.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So there's space for everybody on the arc. Cool.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. I mean, that's a good point to bring up, is that, you know, it shouldn't be that everyone on the stage is the most amazing poet. You know, you need to see a variety of different viewpoints and different skill levels. That's a good thing for the audience to see, because it allows the audience to think, I can do this too.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to see people in different development stages working together and working in the same place, you know, and that's one of the things that I think is great about the writing workshop.
So you talked about the collaborative process, the option for poets or maybe even comedians. I guess they could do musical comedy. Is that something that exists? Maybe
Mitch Hedberg had a great comedy CD that had like a bass guitar in the background, and it was, you know.
So is that like if you go through the drive-through, you go up to the band and you say, I want to hear this on the hi-hats. Like, do you put in your order, or do you just let them play music and then you just do your thing? Like, what often is the dynamic between the various players, so to speak?
I found that both work, and it depending on who I'm playing with. If it's someone that's familiar with my stuff, a lot of times they'll know what I'm gonna do, what poem I'm gonna do, and they kind of have something to match it. But a lot of times that's part of the greatness of just throwing things together, you know, and a lot of times they'll let me start off the poem. I'll go into one stanza and they'll pick up on that, or I'll let them play a little bit and be like, oh, this poem works with this rhythm. Let's see what happens.
Now, you don't have to have this memorized, right?
No.
Yay! Are there any teleprompters? We can dream, can't we?
You can bring some pieces of paper and some fishing line and hold those up if you want.
A little like contraption over
right.
here. Cool. What would you do if you're, I'm just trying to think of all of the different scenarios. So people who are watching out there and you've never gone to an open mic, and maybe this is a question you have, because there's no such thing as a dumb question. There's only the unasked question. Let's say you're reading a poem, the band is playing, and then your poem stops and the band keeps playing. I mean, that doesn't have to necessarily be awkward, but I find that sometimes people are like, oh, they feel compelled that they have to fill up that space and always do something, whereas maybe you can just let the music play and enjoy it.
Do a little dance.
Make a little love?
Yeah.
Get down tonight?
Not on the stage. Please, not on the stage.
Please not on the stage.
No, it's yeah, I mean, let the band play a little bit, you know, that's fine. You know, when I get done with my poem, I usually walk away from the mic to let the band know that I'm done with my part.
Okay.
You know, play on if you want to, and they'll just
you have like a little secret gesture, like a little head scratch that means it's over?
No. Just walking away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk away from the mic. We are going to walk away from this segment because we have a small break, but we'll be right back. This is The Art of Life.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space, and so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Inspired by an ancient culture, classical Chinese dance, vigorous physicality, timeless stories, 5,000 years of Chinese music and dance, Shen Yun presents authentic Chinese culture. Coming to Blaisdell Concert Hall, May 8th and 9th. Tickets at shenyun.com or call 808-792-3919.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidel and the ThinkTech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Here we are, live on The Art of Life. I'm your host, Willow Chang Alion. And if you aren't aware, we do have a Twitter feed. You can tweet us all you want to. And we actually even have the screen. I can read what you want to say or ask. So that's an option for you to be involved and interacted here at The Art of Life and in ThinkTech Hawaii. We also have all of our back episodes archived because we believe in the archival process. Check that out on youtube.com, or you can go to The Art of Life with Willow Chang on Facebook. Perhaps you've heard of it. Anyway, enough of that stuff. We say that every single week. You would know that if you watch the show. If you watch the show, you might also be familiar with our guest. He's a repeat offender, Darron Cambra, poet, I like to say activist, artist, and now host of not one, but several open mics. My goodness, you're like the open mic king.
Keeping things busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to have a lot of variety in our performance art scene, and so, you know, it's something that I hold very dear on allowing people to perform at different venues and different places and get that kind of practice in. And so, you know, the different shows that I put on have their subtle differences for that reason.
Which I was just going to ask you about that, because some people might say, well, what's the difference? Like if you have On King on a Sunday, or if you have Crossroads, or whatever they go by, Hawaiian Brian's, they have like a million working names. What name are they using
Well,
now?
Hawaiian Brian's is the venue, but they have two different stages. So they have the studio, which is where we have our show, and then they have the Crossroads, and that's the big one for the concerts.
So you've got the studio the last Friday of the month.
Mm-hmm.
You have every other Sunday at On King, and now you're going to have every Thursday or just
Every
one?
Thursday.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and
You're
the
gonna
On
be very
King one,
busy.
the On King one is weekly.
Okay.
I'm just there doing my writing workshop on first and third
So for all
Sunday.
of those Darren Canberra groupies, you must remember that. So tell us just a little bit, other than the obvious things like the different location and the different day of the week, how in your mind do you feel that those are different, or what would be the takeaway? Like, are there similar people that follow and go to all of these ones, or is there like a certain kind of crowd or vibe at each place, or is it just the day of the week pulls a different audience, or is it the venue? Like, how are they different to you?
I'd say all of those reasons, like
Okay.
all of the above, and for good reason. You know, at On King, it's, you know, very heavily influenced by artists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a very chill vibe. Hawaiian Brian's, we do once a month, and that's at the competition. And it's a small, intimate location, but, you know, we do the competitive aspect there. And then Anna's is going to be, you know, the kind of bar room, open mic, where people just get down and collaborate with each other. And so, you know, it's good to have those different things. You know, we need a variety in art.
Variety's good. I heard it's the spice of life. I want to ask some other like really practical things. Yeah, it happens when you get a little older. Sometimes you get pragmatic. Are there any bits of advice that you would suggest? I mean, sometimes people will say, whatever you do, don't park in the Burger King lot because they're going to tow your car. Like each place, parking, if you're not aware of this, in Hawaii, parking is the sacred cow.
It is.
And even though everyone has a good intention to carpool and ride share and all that stuff, the reality is most people don't. So that being said, are there any types of like pitfalls or advice that you would recommend to people coming out to the open mic that they should be aware of? Like sometimes in Chinatown, you park your car and you go to Hawaii Theater, and if the show runs late, you come out and your car is gone because it's been towed.
Yeah.
So anything you want to share with the audience?
Sundays in Chinatown, the parking on the streets all open, you know, and so there's plenty of parking over there.
Yeah. I would say use the buddy system just
Yeah.
because it's always a good idea.
And send me a message. I'll come down to the card.
No one's going to
Walk
mess
people.
with him.
Yeah.
He's 6'7". That's why I have 2 cushions today. Okay, and how about station has relatively free parking or parking for $1?
It's charge parking. It's not a whole bunch,
Yeah.
and there's street parking over there too. I mean,
Okay.
all the places have street parking if
Right.
you just go around the block.
And then Anna O'Brien's, what would you recommend? Just trying to cover the bases for people so they
There's
don't have
parking by the park across the street. We
Yeah.
have parking in the back.
Don't park in Burger King.
Don't park in not the lot next to the lot next to Domino's is the one that gets totaled out.
Oh, the
Yeah,
one
there
by
really
Teddy's Bigger Burger. Now
Yeah.
you've been educated, you've been schooled. Don't park there if you want your car to be there.
Ride your bike. You know, that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
That's how I don't worry about parking. I just use two wheels.
You're like Fred Flintstone, the courtesy of your 2 feet. Do. Cool. I like it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to go back to the origin story. I know some people just are not going to go do the hard work of sifting through YouTube. It's so hard. So, local boy,
Yeah.
born and raised, athletes,
Yeah.
rap, all that
Played
good
some
stuff.
basketball, played some volleyball.
Shoot some hoops.
Yeah, went off to college. Got into poetry when I was in high school. You know, I was the back of the notebook when you should be taking notes in class, writing poems type writer. You know, I didn't share much, but got better at it. First time I performed was at commencement, graduation.
That was your first time
That
you
was the first time I
performed?
performed,
Not
and-
too shabby.
Oh, it was an interesting experience. Like about a minute or so into the performance, someone had a heart attack in the back row, and they had to call an ambulance and
Did it
stuff
have
like
anything
that.
to do with your poetry? Did it like?
I don't. I like to think so. I like
Okay.
to think that I've got some heart-stopping poems, but you know, he lived. He was fine. But you know, after all the chaos, they turned back to me and they're like, "Can you start over?" You know, and that was my first experience on stage.
Wow.
So it took a while before I really got comfortable with the stage thing. But it was, you know, it grew as my confidence in writing grew, and then I started, you know, working with youth and getting them up on stage. And I think a successful teacher does what they ask of their students. So that was really the motivating factor in me getting on stage. I wasn't natural on stage. I'd get shy, and, stage fright and stuff like that. Still do, you know, doing it for years.
I know what that means. He's trying to say that he has to use the bathroom before he goes on stage.
It happens.
Everyone does. That's like
Never
your
fails.
body does
Yeah.
that.
10 minutes
Right.
before you have to be on, it's like bladder kicks in. It's like,
Yeah.
all right.
It's like, what is that? What purpose does it serve? No purpose at all. I'm curious about something. So you've done open mic as well on the mainland, Pacific Northwest. Seattle, Washington,
Seattle, Bellingham,
okay.
Tacoma, Portland.
These are always generalizations because that's the nature of what happens when you discuss 2 different places. What would you say, in your opinion, is the difference between like a scene on the mainland? Yes, that's what Hawaii people call the continental U.S. It's kind of charming. The mainland versus Hawaii. What's one of the noticeable differences in your opinion?
I think talking about slam and the poetry scene
Okay.
and stuff like that, I think one of the big differences is that a lot of the other cities our size has more than one slam going on. And so and that's one of the reasons why I started the second slam, is
Right.
that just to give a different look at the same format of performance.
Right.
You know, and it's an important thing. I think it's an important thing to have more than one of something so that you can kind of, it's called quality control, you know. So I think that's something that we really need is to support the small shows that are popping up. You know, Bridget's starting one. You know, I pop up ones here and there. There's a few other people around town that are doing small shows, and I think that those are the ones that, you know, efforts should be made to attend, because those are the ones that really help the scene from the roots up.
Right. I want to also tell people out there, because they may not know, we've produced events, so we know all the nitty-gritty, the very unglamorous stuff behind the scenes. He's like getting worried, what is she going to say? But one of the things people may not be aware of is that the people, when they run out of space, they do take a note of numbers, and numbers can be calculated in many ways. That can be like the body count in terms of attendance, or that can be the door, or that can be the drinks. And as a non-drinker myself, I still think it's important for people to buy a drink whether that's a root beer or a sparkling water, whatever, like help out the bar, help out the wait staff, help out the bartenders, because those things, unfortunately, they come into account. I mean, when push comes to shove, most business people, if they're running their business like one, they're not going to say, oh, this is like a great event and has a lot of soul. Even though there's only like 25 people here, we're going to keep it. They'll end up just at some point cutting it loose and filling it with something that's going to make money. So that's my plea to you guys out there. When you go to your events, not only support them with your attendance, but, you know, get some of that kala flowing and treat yourself and feel like a high roller and have a drink with a paper umbrella or something.
It's, you know, that's an important reality of putting on these shows, is that, you know, the venues that we use, you know, it's great that they open up the doors to us, and it's, you know, it's wonderful that they're supporting the arts, but they need to be supported as well. And you're right. I mean, buying drinks and buying stuff at the venue is what keeps the shows going.
It helps their bottom line.
If you don't drink, that's great, you know.
You can order some nachos or something.
Or buy a drink for a poet.
Yeah.
You know, your favorite poet, or the tallest poet in the room. You know,
Yeah.
You know.
Or the one who wearing high heels.
I can't do that.
It's all about you, isn't it? But it's good stuff to consider, because I think a lot of times people don't think about that. They're like, well, I'm here and I'm supporting, but there's so many ways to support. That includes social media, right? You can tweet when you're at the event, you can Instagram. Everyone is all about that, and it's just, it's something you have to do in this day and age. But it's really, really helpful. People might think it doesn't matter, like, oh, well, what good is my little, like, post or my review or my comment going to, you know, what kind of impact will it have? But it actually does. It's surprising how these things will trickle back, and they'll say, oh, I saw this thing, my friend wrote about it on Facebook, or I saw a photo of it, it looked pretty cool, so I thought I'd check it out. I mean, those things it's like throwing a little stone in a very still pond, and it ripples out, and it does have impact.
Yeah, social media and word of mouth is very important to get the word out, and take pictures at the show. You know, post it on Facebook. Show what a great time you're having, because you know that's what gets people out.
Yeah,
you know?
That could also be, that could be the new truth or dare, or I mean, it could be like a birthday thing. You know, it could be a fun thing if you have a birthday and you've always wanted to go on stage and you want to sing I Will Survive or something. You already have an audience, right? You just bring your friends and bring your party over to the open mic, and it could be a barrel of monkeys.
But most open mics want all original material.
Oh,
sorry. You can mash up. You can mash up I Will Survive with something else.
See, if I didn't ask, we wouldn't know that. And someone is crestfallen because they were going to do some Michael Jackson medley. Now you've just dashed
you can do
their
the medley
dreams.
if you mash up Bad and you know the other songs.
Just checking. Just checking.
Yeah, that's another thing is most open mics want all original material. They don't want covers. You know, there's laws about it and stuff like that.
But what about for like your dance-friendly people? Like, let's say somebody wants to do some break dancing. I mean, are they going to have to make their own music?
Mix it up. Mix it up. Do part, you know, chop up part of one dance or one song for your dance routine. Just don't use the whole song, as long as you're not using it in its entirety.
Interesting stuff. Did you know that? It's news to me. It's good to know, though. Yeah.
It's always more fun to do original material, though. I mean,
It's true.
Yeah, do what inspires you. You know?
It's true.
Do what you create.
Do you foresee having some, like, lightning rounds? You know how I'm a fan of this thing. Like, you give someone a topic, you have 3 people up there, and they create something on the spot.
That's something that we could probably do at the On King one. You know, right before the open mic, we'll do the writing workshop, and you know, and a lot of people do bring what they write that day onto the mic right afterwards.
Cool. Think about that. Have you ever done something on the fly? Have you ever presented something as soon as it was birthed from your brain? Think about that. We'll be right back. This is The Art of Life.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Keith.
My name's Keith Bettinger.
I knew that.
And I'm the host of ThinkTech Asia.
I knew that, too.
Here on ThinkTech.
Fabulous. You got a great show going, Keith.
Thank you very much. And for our viewers out there that are interested in ThinkTech Asia, it airs every Tuesday from 4 to 4:45. And it can be accessed online at thinktech.com.
Yeah, so what kind of guests you like?
Well, we have a number of guests from academia, from practitioners of international affairs. Sometimes we have military officials. Sometimes we have public officials on the show. And our goal, we try to talk about current issues in South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Central Asia, all throughout the Asian realm in more depth than you would find in traditional mainstream
That's the
media.
difference, isn't it?
Exactly.
That you're reaching out beyond what ordinary news media would do.
Right.
That's why we like you so much.
We're trying to provide a thinking person's perspective, an intelligent perspective on what's going on, and where both sides of the story, or even when there's more than two sides, we try to cover every angle. And I think that's one of the big benefits that we provide here at ThinkTech. It's a really innovative source of educational programming for the people of Hawaii.
You're great, Keith. You are a great host. You got a great show going on. I watch it every week.
Thanks very much.
Why don't you guys watch it every week too, okay?
4:45 to 4 to 4:45 every Tuesday.
What was that? I believe that was a flying axe. Ladies and gentlemen, it is The Art of Life. I'm your host, Willow Chang Alion. We have our third and final segment of today's show featuring poet and instructor Darren Canberra.
Hi.
Welcome. So, if you were listening, I said instructor. Tell us about it, Mr. Canberra. Are you like a stand and deliver, like an Edward James Olmos? Are you like a captain, my captain? Do you stand on tables? Like, what do you teach, and when do you do it?
I don't stand on tables. I end up hitting the ceiling in most classrooms if I did that.
I never had that problem.
It depends. I mean, I like to engage students. You know, when I'm teaching poetry in the classroom, it's something that's supposed to be vibrant. It's supposed to have a lot of energy and stuff like that. So, it's fun. So right now, my main focus in the education field is being a substitute and going into classrooms and teaching writing workshops during the substitute days. And it's nice because the teachers love it because they don't have to do lesson plans for that period, and it's something more comprehensive than the regular just worksheet, and that rarely gets done anyway. So do a lot of writing exercises with them, poetry based, a little bit of hip hop influence, so they get interested in it. They write and they share. Getting them to share is the hardest part, but a lot of times positive reinforcement, just getting an entire classroom to clap for an individual, gets them to actually want to share. And that's an awesome thing once you see that peer pressure can be used as a positive thing in the classroom as well. If you just harness it as a positive energy.
Now, if I recall, last year you were teaching, and I don't know what the proper term is, but we're going to say at-risk youth. Does that sound apropos? So you were teaching some at-risk youth. You can define that and explain what it was that you were doing, because that sounded pretty fascinating.
Oh, I was working with a program that was bringing the workshops into the facilities, the incarceration facilities, and working with those kids and getting
Would
them
that
to
be
write.
like juvies?
Yeah. So taking them into taking the writing into juvie, and it was great. And actually, we got some new funding for it, so we're going to be starting another round of that.
Cool.
And the responses are heartbreaking and wonderful at the same time. A lot of these kids are really bright individuals, jaded with the system, and just need some way of expressing themselves. Some of the kids, felt failed at school, and their writing skills aren't necessarily to par, but just getting them to express themselves and seeing their story written down gives some kind of validation that a lot of times they've never felt before. And so those are the things that I concentrate on. It's not so much the quality of the poetry, it's the quality of the effort.
Right.
And so it's moving.
I wanted to ask you about something. So last week, you were like, whoa, what a shameless plug it was. I did a whole show based in my poetry. Sometimes it happens. And that was the 30 for 30 challenge for National Poetry Month. And one of the things I had mentioned is that, there's different components to the process, the creative process or the writing process and what have you. And there's something almost solitary about writing poetry. And you can expand that and say the creative process can at times also be very solitary. It certainly is for usually like painters or, when actors are researching roles or what have you. But then there's something very different about performing or reading your poetry. I mean, reading poetry is really not the same as performing. Performing is not the same as the slam. And all of those are quite different than just that process of writing. What is your take on that, and what's your feedback on all of those things?
I think they're all different aspects of being a poet, you know, and it's all important things. I think that, you know, to be a well-balanced poet would be, you know, someone that reads up on other people's poetry,
Right.
One that writes a lot, one that reads their new stuff and also performs things that they've perfected, you know. And I think that's the difference between the reading and the performing is you get to a point where you perfect it, you memorize it, you know, it becomes part of the presentation, you know,
Right.
the artistry of the presentation. But those are all different stages of development, and some people are really good at one, some people are really good at another, or a combination of them. So, you know, you learn what you need to practice, you know. Me personally, I was never really natural on stage, so the performance part is something that I really had to work on and hone.
But your memory is good, because you write some really long poems, and you just ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. I mean, yes, I've seen him perform.
If you can memorize a song off the radio, you can memorize a poem. Like, if you same amount of brain space.
You have said this before. So what is your process? I'm curious. For those out there, they're probably interested too. Like, do you learn like a stanza or like 4 or 5 lines, and then you add to that? Is it like an additive process, or do you try to just get it through one piece, or do you set it to a song, like a melody, to like memorize it and then do it without a song? Like, what's your process for you?
I go section by section.
Okay.
Like, I take it stanza by stanza and do it over and over again until it's memorized, and then move on and build from there.
Do you do it in front of a person? Like, do you drive them crazy, or do you do it like in the privacy of your own room?
I send out a lot of phone calls. Like, I don't talk on the phone much unless I've got a new piece that I need to try out.
Yeah.
So most of my close friends know that if I'm calling them, it's like, I need 3:30 of your time.
But how do they know you're doing it from memory? How do they know you're not like reading it?
Sometimes I am. I mean, but that's part of the process. Is like, you know, that's how you get the confidence to put away the paper. You know, I think that you should have the paper on your body until you're well into until you know that you have it down pat, and you can do it like section by section. You can do a random section like that. That to me proves that you memorized it. Because if you just start from the beginning and you go into it, then you know it by pattern.
Right.
But if you can go to like the middle of it and pick up right there.
Oh, you know what they used to call that in music school? That's like a drop test, drop needle test. They would drop the needle somewhere on the recording, and you'd have to be able to just identify the song. It's true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of intense. Do you ever resort to something like writing on your hand or your arm? Do you have like a cheat or like a word, and you're like, egg McMuffin, and that helps trigger you?
No, I mean, I've used it for playlists. Definitely when I'm up there knowing like what I have in my head and what's gonna work, I definitely have written.
Okay.
You know. But no, I'll just put it on paper.
Okay. What about if somebody reaches a point where they just go blank? I mean, it happens. You know, maybe they've just oversaturated their brain with all of this stuff, and then once they're there, they're like, they choke. I think that's the term. You choke. What would you recommend?
At that point, you've got 3 options. You can go back a stanza and try to see if you can get that back on track. You can skip to, you know, a new part that you know, or you can bail on the piece.
Wait, you have a 4th part. Make something up on the spot.
Or you can improvise. You know, so you do have options. I mean, it happened to me last night at Bridget's show. A piece that I'm very familiar with, Modest Proposal. I just could not. I was doing it with music in the background. It was a DJ playing some jazzy tracks, and it was great. The music sounded wonderful, but there was a horn in the background that threw me off. That I wasn't
air
expecting.
horn?
And I don't know. I'm not a musical person, but like, so I can't identify instruments. But I think it was a trombone or something. But it just threw me off, and I could not get that next stanza. So I just jumped into another poem. You know, it's.
And they probably never knew unless they're watching the show now.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing about when you mess up on stage. It's like you're the one that's gonna let them know how big of a mistake that was.
I think it's also what makes it really exciting, you know, to have something off the cuff You know, it's like the little Welenda. He's walking on a tightrope, and even though he's done all these amazing passes, you're always wondering if the dude's going to fall.
Yeah.
Not that that's what you want. It's not like a Schadenfreude kind of thing. We don't want anyone injured, but isn't there something perversely entertaining about that thought that when there's something live and spontaneous, you don't know what the outcome will be?
Yeah, I mean, jugglers are the same way. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so cool that he's juggling that. I kind
Machete.
of want to watch him
Yeah.
drop it, you know?
Oops, there goes my
Right.
fingers.
Come on, chainsaw, come on.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, the messing up on stage, it's part of it, you know? And I think it's important for people to see. Like, I don't mind when I mess up on stage, especially if some of my mentees or some, you know, fans and stuff like that are watching, where,
Right.
you know, they get to see that, you know, even people that are practiced
That
don't
the
always get
giants
it perfect.
fall.
Yeah, it happens, you know, and you just kind of smile about it and, you know, move on with your life.
Yeah.
You're going to remember your mess up more than anyone in the audience will.
And that's what the bar is for,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other like cones of wisdom that you want to share with us, or information about the scene in general? I mean, sounds like that the scene is being resuscitated and revived. I mean, at this rate, we might reach a point where there could be an open mic every day of the week. Sounds like we're kind of heading in that direction. How exciting!
I mean, that's a goal. You know, people have schedules and stuff like that, and some nights they can't make it. So, you know, it's important to have things available on different nights.
Yeah.
You know, come out and support those things. It's important to support the artists, make them feel loved, and really like get off your couch. You know,
Yeah,
go
get off
enjoy.
your desk.
Yeah, go enjoy. You know what the nightlife has to offer with live art. You know.
I want to ask you the hot seat question, just like popped into my head. Is there anything you wouldn't write about? That's part one. Part two is there something that you would write about that you would never perform in public?
Ooh, I try to write about everything. Like I really make a conscious effort to dive into as many topics as possible. I want to have a wide variety of poems. I don't want just one direction going on with my poetry. So, you know, I've written a little bit about the civil unrest going on with race relations and stuff like that, the Black Lives Matter. And it's, you know, I've done stuff about violence against women, violence against children. And some of those pieces are hard. They're hard to stomach, hard to watch. And so some of those I don't do for points anymore.
Right.
Like, it gets to a point where, you know, it feels disingenuine to be doing an anti, you know, violence against women piece for tens. You know, I know that it's gonna, you know, I know that it's gonna score, you know, in the 9 to 10 range.
Based on the topic itself.
Based on the topic, but I don't want that to be a decision. I don't want to make that decision, make that play call. So,
it's a pander-free zone.
yeah, so there's stuff that I won't perform regularly, you know, unless it's for that cause.
Right, okay, cool. Let's recap before we have to sign off. The new event is this up-and-coming Thursday, May 14th.
Right.
And then we'll continue every Thursday
Every
at Anna's.
Thursday.
Wow,
So
exciting.
Anna O'Brien's every Thursday. On King has an open mic every Sunday. I will be doing writing workshops on the first and third Sunday, and that starts at 7 o'clock. And then every fourth Friday at Hawaiian Brian's at the studio, we have the 4-word play slam, and that is open to all different performers, and that starts at 7 as well.
Would you have ever thought when you were a teenager that so many moons later you'd be this invested and involved in the poetry scene in Hawaii?
No. I mean, I always thought that I would be doing something, but definitely behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I would be doing as much hosting and things like that as I do, but, you know, it came to be a necessity, you know, and got me out of my comfort level and stuff. And so it's fun, you know. Doing the hosting is an entirely different animal in itself. Keeping the show going, telling some jokes in between and stuff, and it's been that's a fun part, you know, is opening up on comedy. I'm starting to tell more jokes on stage and stuff, and so that's a new aspect that I've been trying out.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to that. We'll have you again as a three-peat sometime in the future. Thank you so much for joining us, Darren. Darren Canberra, I'm your host, Willow Chang, Leon, The Art of Life. Stay tuned. We've got another fabulous show here on ThinkTech Hawaii.